welcome back. In today's video we're going to be running and reviewing the John Bull train set that I got from my neighbor. So I'm gonna move the locomotive and ditch the train cars so we can get a more in-depth view of the locomotive. Okay, so here's the locomotive. So I'm just gonna point out some things I like or how detailed it is or what I think is wrong with this engine since I've seen it in real life. So first I'll point out the main thing that I think is wrong with this is the tender. I've seen it in real life and the tender is much different, so I'm not sure if this is just an older tender it has or this is just completely wrong. So I'll just put a picture of the real engine here. I removed the tender for the detail part as, well, it isn't really correct and doesn't have much detail, and the main focus is this locomotive. And when I'm showing all this detail, just keep in mind it's a Bachmann from the 80s, so not a lot of detail was expected back then. One of the things I really like about this engine is how small and intricate all these little details on the top of the engine are, and this little bit right here on the back of the engine. Just really detailed and is really nice looking. Now I want to turn attention to the boiler of this. You can actually see that all the wood planks that were actually making up this boiler in real life are actually there, and it's a really small detail that not a lot of people will see, but it's a really nice one to have. Something I don't like about this engine is how the tender and the locomotive couple. So they just have this little pin that can slide out, and the tender isn't really even attached to the locomotive much, and it can actually push it up on slight bumps and derail the engine. As you can see, it's a little clip, get in there, but when you do, both things are on the rails here. You can see that's a substantial gap and it can just come apart pretty easily. Something else I have to critique this on is it's really light, and since that tender there is pushing the thing, it derails really easily around the slightest bumps, so you have to have perfect track work for it to work well. This last little detail is something really small that I want to point out on the tender. The wheels are actually ones that have holes in them, so they look more like an actual tender, and it just makes it look a bit more realistic. Probably no one's ever going to notice it, but it's nice to have there. So that's my review and critique of the locomotive, so let's move on to the cars. Okay, so I pulled out one of the cars just to share the detail on it, and it's a really nicely detailed car. It's got a whole bunch of little window detail and stuff, and some underside detail there too, like with the trucks. I don't know much about this, but this car seems pretty detailed for the time it was made. The only real critique I have about these cars is they have some scuffing on the roof from the packaging, and sometimes when you pick them up like this, it doesn't happen, but these trucks are really weak, and you can see that these wheels kind of wiggle a little bit inside the truck as well, so they're pretty prone to falling out, which is really annoying when you're trying to put the cars on the track or you're trying to put them in the package. So that's it for my review, so let's go run the train. I'd like to thank you all for watching.